The apocalypse doesn't kill first. People do. At first, nobody believed it. The news came in fragments, confusing, inconsistent, almost harmless. A disruption in communication systems, a few cities reporting power outages, then shortages, then silence. People laughed it off. Another crisis, another headline. But something felt off. The streets didn't change overnight. There were no explosions, no screaming sirens, no skies turning red. Life continued. Cars moved, stores opened, people went to work. But underneath it all, something was shifting. Subtle at first. A glance held too long. A conversation that ended too abruptly. Neighbors who once smiled now avoided eye contact. It wasn't fear of the disaster. It was something else, something quieter, something more dangerous. By the third day, supplies started running low. Supermarkets weren't empty, but they weren't full either. Shelves looked disturbed, as if someone had already taken more than they should. People began buying more, not because they needed to, but because they thought someone else would. And that was the moment everything changed. No announcement marked it, no alarm sounded, but trust disappeared. A man grabbed the last pack of bottled water, even though his cart was already full. A woman shouted at a cashier over a limit policy that no longer mattered. Someone pushed, someone yelled, someone recorded, and suddenly it wasn't about survival anymore. It was about getting there first. That night, the power went out. Not everywhere, just enough to remind people how fragile everything was. Without light, the world felt different. Smaller, closer, unsafe. Phones lost signal, screens went dark, the silence grew heavier. And in that silence, people started to think. Not about helping, not about fixing things, but about protecting what was theirs. Doors that were once left unlocked were now bolted shut, curtains drawn tight, lights kept off. Nobody trusted anyone anymore. By day 5, the disaster itself was still unclear. No one knew what caused it. No one knew how far it had spread. But something else had already taken over. Fear. And fear doesn't need answers. It only needs imagination. Rumors spread faster than facts. They're coming from the north. Water is contaminated. The government has abandoned us. Each whisper added another layer of panic. And panic turns ordinary people into something else. A group formed in one neighborhood. They said it was for protection, to keep outsiders away. At first, it made sense. They set up watches, organized supplies, created rules. But rules don't last when fear grows. Soon, they weren't just watching strangers. They were watching each other. Who had more food? Who was hiding something? Who couldn't be trusted? Suspicion became currency, and accusations became weapons. One night, someone disappeared. No one asked questions. No one wanted to, because asking meant attention, and attention was dangerous. Elsewhere, a man tried to help. He shared what little food he had with his neighbors. He offered to check on the elderly, to bring water, to organize something better. But kindness started to look like weakness, and weakness attracted the wrong kind of attention. People began to take advantage. They came asking for help and took more than they needed. They stopped saying thank you. Then they stopped asking, and eventually they stopped seeing him as a person, just a resource. One night they came back, not to ask, but to take everything. He didn't fight back. He didn't even understand what was happening, because in his mind, they were still neighbors. But in theirs, he was just another obstacle. That was the moment the truth became clear. The disaster hadn't broken the world. People had. Not at once, not violently, but slowly, quietly, one decision at a time. By day 10, the streets were empty. Not because people were gone, but because everyone was hiding, watching, waiting. Every sound felt like a threat. Every shadow felt alive. And the worst part? No one knew who they had become. There were no villains in their own stories, only survivors. People justified everything. I had no choice. They would have done the same. I'm just protecting myself. But survival, at what cost? In one house, a family sat in silence. They had enough food for a few more days, enough water, enough to survive if nothing changed. But something had already changed. They no longer trusted the outside world. They barely trusted each other. Every conversation felt careful, measured, as if one wrong word could break everything. Because in a world without rules, people start creating their own rules, and those rules are rarely kind. One night there was a knock at the door. Soft, desperate. A voice followed. "Please, I just need water." The family froze. No one moved. No one spoke. The voice came again, weaker this time. "I have a child." Silence filled the room. The father looked at the door. The mother looked at the supplies. The child looked at both of them. Time stretched. The knock came again, then stopped. No footsteps, no sound, just silence, and a decision that would stay with them forever. Because opening the door could mean death, but not opening it meant something else died instead. Days later, they would still think about that moment. Not the disaster, not the fear, but that choice, because that's what the end really is. Not fire, not destruction, not chaos, but the quiet moments where people choose who they become. And more often than not, they choose wrong. By the time help finally arrived, if it ever did, there wouldn't be much left to save. Not because the disaster was unstoppable, but because something else had already done the damage. Something far more efficient, far more predictable. Human nature. Because in the end, the apocalypse doesn't kill first. People do.